It's going to go out any moment now. This says, do you think that Uncle Jezza has done the right thing by turning down a slap-up banquet because he didn't want to sit near Big Orange? What, the tangerine scream? Yeah. I mean, at some point you've got to draw the line. I mean, there's some individuals you just don't want to sit next to. I mean, the Queen, she's got 750 bedrooms at her disposal in Buckingham Palace, and she said there isn't a single one that you can sleep in. She doesn't want to spend one single night under the same room as that man. You know, understandably. Then neither does his wife, I wouldn't think. Poor Melania's got to sleep in her own bedroom.
I don't care.
But it might not be Uncle Jezza who is our next PM. It could be Boris. And so it's a good job that Boris has never said anything that might upset the famously thin-skinned president.
I think Donald Trump is clearly out of his mind.
I mean, if Boris Johnson was on record saying something that the president might be upset about, then we'd really be in trouble.
I think Donald Trump is clearly out of his mind.
If anybody had a tape of Boris saying something that Ancient Orange might get riled at, then they should definitely keep it to themselves.
I think Donald Trump is clearly out of his mind.
This says, the police use a roadside saliva test that detects the active ingredient Delta-9 THC. Wow, that sounds like one of those sci-fi programs. It actually sounds like something that would be on after Captain Scarlet. Delta-9 THC. Anyway, this active ingredient, which gets you high, it can detect it for around 10 hours since last use. Workplace testing checks for the metabolites, the THC, which can be months. Does that make sense? No. Bit unfair, really. You could smoke a week before starting a job and fail a test 3 months later, says Luke in London. Yeah, that seems weird. It says, pull some strings, Nick, and arrange for the caller Ken to phone the President of the United States of America on his visit to the UK and implore him to repent. Yeah, Donald Trump is a Christian. People still actually believe that, and I just what people are prepared to swallow is just beyond belief. This says there's only one cause of death: lack of breath. Other things may help it along, but generally a lack of breath is what gets you, says Gary, and that's probably correct. Don't stop breathing, and you'll never die. Michigan became this is information from Forbes magazine, you know, the magazine for people with money. It's probably one of those magazines that's stuffed full of adverts for stupidly huge watches. Can they possibly get any bigger? You see these football managers or the footballers themselves, once they've got their clothes back on, they've got these watches. Grandfather clocks didn't used to come that large. They can barely get their wrist up off the ground, they're so huge. Anyway, Forbes magazine says, this was an article last December, it said Michigan became the 10th state to legalize recreational use of marijuana. God, we're more conservative than Michigan. While Utah and Missouri became the 32nd and 33rd states to legalize medical cannabis. Holy moly, we're more conservative than Utah. What? The states that have legalized are rightly optimistic about the potential for cannabis taxes to start help paying for their roads and schools and local governments. This is Forbes magazine, and what they don't know about money, you could write on the back of a 10-pence piece. The state has estimated, Michigan State, estimated that it will generate $737 million in additional tax revenue in the first 4 years after legalization. They're going to tax it at 10%. We could tax it at much more than that. But the money that they will raise is enough to meet the budget for the state's police force for an entire year. And in a country that has a police force that is desperately in want of cash, wouldn't that be a good idea? You know, there's 9 million people in Michigan. So let's assume that here in the UK there'll be at least the same number of sales per person. And that would equate in tax to about £4.5 billion. But you know what? It would be more than that, because that doesn't count the savings that would be made by not spending the time and the resources in policing it and prosecuting it and putting people up in jails, which on its own was said to be £13.5 million a year. That's not jails, that's just overnight stays in the police station. £13.5 million a year. For 12 hours after they'd been arrested, putting people up that the police had felt their collar for doing the marijuana, £13.5 million a year we could have saved. On top of the £4.5 billion a year that we could have made by taxing it at 10%. And I would suggest that we'd tax it at way more than that. If we taxed it at 20%, that'd be £9 billion. And in case you think the police aren't prosecuting cannabis users anymore, I mean, the numbers have gone down, but you might think that there's not anybody being prosecuted for it anymore. 6,000 cases of detainment in 2016, the last year that I could get numbers for. 6,000 cases of detainment. So that's not nothing. Meanwhile, back in America, some states are already reaping the benefits of legalization. Nevada is pouring $42.5 million in taxes. Or pulling in, rather, and this is in 1 year. They've stuck it up their rainy day fund. Of course, it never rains in Nevada, so they'll probably never use it. Colorado and Washington, which were the first two U.S. states to legalize recreational use, collected nearly $250 million and $320 million, respectively, in cannabis-related taxes and fees in the 1 year of 2017. And if you've ever been to Colorado or Washington, you'll know there's hardly anybody lives there. So what we could be making in this country is just boggles the mind. And those tax numbers are impressive, but it's still early days. The size of the legal cannabis market could grow to $25 billion by 2025. And, you know, when one state sees their neighbours catching millions and millions more per year from the burgeoning industry, then it's going to burnish the economic case for legalisation and accelerate the process. And we'll be left trailing in the dust, still spending money on policing it and gaining no money from the sale of it. Doesn't make any sense, particularly as this phony war on drugs has not worked here or anywhere at any point in time that it has ever been prosecuted. I mean, can you think of another product with a huge existing market and a massive demand that is currently outside the tax system? It just doesn't make any economic sense. And if it doesn't make any legal sense, then what sense does it make? The only sense that it does make is that it shields politicians from actually having to do something, which is why they always say, oh, well, we'll convene a body to look into it. I mean, how many times have you heard that? We'll issue a paper. And every single time, the response is the same. A group of experts will convene and they'll look into it for a year at vast expense to us, the general public, and they will always say the same, that the war doesn't work and maybe we should legalise it. And the government will say, oh, thank you very much, we'll take that report and then we'll bury it. And we'll ignore it. And then just so we don't have to do anything, we'll convene another investigation. And we can't discuss it now because we don't want to prejudge the results of that investigation, and on and on and on. The amount of money they're spending on shielding themselves from having to actually do something is staggering. This says, after last night's programme, I took your advice and watched a video of Mussolini. You're right. He's got Donald Trump written all over him. Or vice versa, says Anthony in Kingston. If you haven't seen a video of Mussolini lately, then do so. And doing one of his speeches, and you'll see that it's really alarmingly like Donald Trump.
I'm president! Can you believe it?
Nobody can believe it, Donny. We're never going to get used to it.
Who do you think you're talking to?
I'm talking to a fellow in Greenwich called Ian. Ian.
Hello?
Ian.
Yeah. I see, like you speak to, you don't like Donald Trump.
What?
You don't like Donald Trump, do you?
I don't like Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Well, what's to like about him?
Because really, at the end, it's only your middle class don't like Donald Trump, because Democrats don't like Donald Trump, and I always say you've got the fear on that, and you class him this and class him that, and really he's a doer, and he really, at the end of the day, you know what I mean?
No, I don't, Ian.
I know you come from Oxford, Cambridge or whatever, and you don't like to rock the boat, you like to be a Remainer and say, okay, long as we get all fine, and that's it. You don't like someone different in your case.
Well, you're making a lot of sense, Ian.
Excuse me?
This is a very cogent argument of yours.
No, it's sort of like, I like Donald Trump because really he's the doer.
Yeah.
I don't like Theresa May.
Right. I think Ian, let's to the nub of it. You like Donald Trump because he appeals to the poorly educated.
I love the poorly educated.
I mean, I don't wish to be rude, but you're making no sense at all. I'm going to send you a hat in the post. I do not come from Oxford or Cambridge, and Donald Trump's not a doer. He's a whiner.
I am the most fabulous whiner. And I'm a whiner, and I keep whining and whining.
Hey, I want to talk about aliens. Remind me, I want to talk about aliens. Because there's these a couple of stories that came out. Quite good. I don't want it to be a topic. I don't want to hear from you if you've seen an alien. I just want to pass on some information.
Please hold the line. I'm trying to connect you.
Yes, I'm trying to connect a person in High Wycombe. James.
Yeah, hi.
James.
Just want to talk about the cannabis scenario. I just wondered what your thoughts were on the fact that if you legalise it and tax it, what you think is going to be the subsequent result of the black market carrying on with the same dealers that are growing in their attics now, selling it cheaper because the legalised cannabis has suddenly got 10% tax on it.
Well, you can buy homemade alcohol, James, but I don't think there's a big market for it.
At the moment, cigarettes are legal at the moment, aren't they? And the black market for cigarettes is huge in this country because they undercut how much it costs to buy cigarettes in a shop.
Right. Well, I wouldn't know where to get it, and most people I know wouldn't know where to get it. But you could alcohol is legal, and you can brew it at home and sell it to your friends. But there's no big market for it.
I think most of the listeners out there would agree with me that it's extremely easy to get hold of.
Well, I'm not sure that most listeners would agree with you. That's just you making it up.
Well, I think they would, and the fact of the matter
well, you can think all you like, James, but that's just you making it up.
There's a big market for counterfeit cigarettes. Google it. Google it, man. See
okay,
how many
all right, okay. Let's just assume that that's true. So what?
So let's assume it's true. So you put 10%, 15% tax on cannabis, and that will just be the start of it, because the government loves taxing things. When it goes up to 30, 40% on tax on cannabis, the same dealers that are dealing it now are still going to be punting it out on the street.
Okay, but that's not the listen to me. That is not the experience in America, James. So why should it be here?
Well, let's see what the experience in America actually happens, because at the moment it's been a very short period of time.
No, not really. It's been years.
I think the government...
Colorado legalised it years ago.
Well, how do you know that isn't happening in Colorado?
The government's making hundreds of millions of billions of pounds in America by taxing marijuana.
And I bet it's still being dealt in Colorado as well on the street.
Well, yeah, but if they hadn't legalised it, listen to me. If they hadn't legalised it, then the situation would remain the same. So you're suggesting that we shouldn't legalise it because it won't be 100% perfect.
Economics. It's simple economics. You're saying it will take it out of the hand of the dealers.
Yeah.
If you tax a product, the dealers will better get it.
I heard you. I understand what you're saying. But your position seems to be that we shouldn't legalise it because that won't create a situation that is 100% perfect. Is that right?
Well, that's one of the reasons that I don't think it will take it out of the hands of the dealers, and I think it's a pretty damn valid reason why it won't take the hand out of the dealers. And it seems to
it would take a massive amount out of the hands of the dealers.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. It would.
If you say so.
Well, I do say so. I mean, what's the market for legal cigarettes, James? Is the market for legal cigarettes bigger than the market for dodgy cigarettes? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. Thanks. 034. God, so aggressive, so shouty and violent. I expect alcohol was involved. Let's have Rushton. Hello, Dan.
Hi.
Dan.
I'm here.
Yes, Dan.
I would like to say, with regard to marijuana, that back in the day, there was just marijuana, right? Nick, you there?
What does that mean?
well, it was a very mild sort of thing, which was less than alcohol, where teenagers, people back in the 80s could just chill out, but now it's turning into something else.
What? Turning into something else? What do you mean?
Well, it's turned into Nick. Look around at what's happening. It's turned into like sort of drug wars, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
What's the solution to that? There's no this or that. There's no black or white. It's a sorting it out of. Does that make sense?
No.
It does, Nick. It does.
It doesn't. Nothing that you've said so far has made any sense, Dan. It's lots of words. I understand the individual words, but not in the order in which you put them. But thanks for the gaps in between, which gave us a lot of time to think. I could have put on The Dark Side of the Moon and listened to that in one of those gaps. I think shall I try and fill it in? All right. He's saying that marijuana used to be less strong and now it's much more strong. The reason for that is because it's illegal. Its very illegality means that they're increasing the strength of it because they make more money from doing that, and the punishment for being caught selling it is the same. So why wouldn't you? Of course it is the case. This says, good economics make bad politics. The trouble is it's easier to fool people than it is to convince them that they've been fooled. That's true. Once you've fooled someone, then there is an enormous resistance for them admitting that they have been fooled because there's too much loss of face. I don't want to mention Brexit in connection with that, but, I think I did. Damn it! Oh, well, maybe I got away with it. It says, it continues, legalizing cannabis will lower crime overnight, but actually save lives with freed-up police to tackle knife crime and the like. Banning a drug causes it only to become stronger, and if that drug is not available, addicts look to other stronger drugs for a fix. That's what makes it a so-called gateway drug. There really is no excuse to continue this farcical war on drugs, says Michael. Wow. A cogent argument, well put. This says, I will clarify my comment on cannabis for you. Who's this? Well, I'll read on and I'll find out. I will clarify my comment on cannabis for you. I don't remember what your initial comment was. He says, I do have a disability that is improved by taking cannabis. I'm not a current user, and I have not been for 20 years. So that knocks the gateway drug argument on its head. Does it? But it did work for me, even when cocodamol-type drugs really didn't touch the pain. That's cocodamol. That's kind of a morphine-related drug, kind of serious pain relief. He says, hence my comment that pain-free people can butt out of the medical side of the conversation because really they don't have a clue, says Gary. Well, I don't know, maybe it's my memory, but I don't recall that comment being made earlier on. I should listen to this show more carefully, and maybe I'll learn something. This says, turmeric does seriously improve inflammation, ? That doesn't sound like a question. That doesn't sound like a question. Nick, ! Turmeric does seriously improve inflammation, ? It has made a significant difference to my stomach problems. It improves arthritis among many other inflammatory ailments. Well, it's one of those things that you see in a health food store and they claim all sorts of benefits for it. Maybe it does and maybe it doesn't. I mean, it costs a good deal of money to buy tubs of pills of turmeric. So maybe just the expense of it will persuade people that it is actually doing something. It's possible. And this says it has to be taken a week or two and in the correct dose before it works, but it does work, says CG. Now, I did want to talk about extinction, but I haven't talked about the UFOs. You know, if I don't manage to get it in, I will put it in the podcast. I'll tell you how to get that in just a minute. Enfield, hello, Ryan.
Hi there.
Ryan.
I've got my opinion on cannabis. I used to smoke it from the age of about 20. I've stopped smoking it now. I stopped smoking it about 8 years ago. But I still feel that it's better than alcohol.
Better? What do you mean better?
There's less consequence from it. There's less. It's just better.
Well, can you define better?
Well, if you look at the UK prison system, there's probably half the people in there from alcohol-related crimes.
It does tend to make people lose their minds. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like why is alcohol legal, but marijuana isn't?
Well, if we started from scratch, it probably wouldn't be.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, I don't know what to say, but I know for a fact that marijuana is 10 times safer than alcohol. And I drink, but I don't smoke.
Right. Well, then why? So that seems illogical. Why did you give up then, if it's better?
Well, I don't know, to be honest.
Okay. All right. Well, as long as you've given that a lot of thought. Thanks, Ryan. And as for the safer part, I mean, there's some things that alcohol will do to you that marijuana definitely won't, and vice versa. But I just go back to if you asked a policeman, would they rather deal with a crowd of drunks or a crowd of people that were stoned, then I pretty much know what they'd say, and they wouldn't choose the drunks. You could ask people in accident and emergency the exact same thing. I mean, on Friday and Saturday night, I bet accident and emergency up and down the country right now is absolutely chock-a-block full of people who are drunk off their faces. And they're the ones that are going to have to come with a police escort. They're going to be handcuffed to the bed because they'll be lashing out and, making a right nuisance of themselves. Stoners, on the other hand, will be sat silently on one of those plastic seats, staring at their shoelaces. Have I taken a break yet? Huh? No? Well, I'm blaming you. All right, well, I'll come to that in a sec. I think I have. Where are we? Are you sure? How can you find out? God, I really should pay more attention to this programme. It might be good. You never know.
Join me, Ruth Davidson.
Let's have a call in Tufnell Park. Hello, Kate.
Hello.
Kate.
Nick. I don't expect the Queen is very happy because I'm sure she doesn't want to meet Mr. Trump.
No, Mr. Grabby Hands. No.
And the way things are going, nobody will be turning up. And she'll be saying, I'm sorry, but no one's turned up for the state bank, so let's go down McDonald's.
She'll just put a note on the door saying, we're out.
I just think, I mean, she doesn't want to do this. She's been told, hasn't she, to do the state thingy because of Theresa May.
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, the government issues instructions every now and again to the palace. I mean, sometimes when the palace wants to, say Prince Charles wants to go to see his friends in Brunei or Saudi Arabia or all points north, south, east and west, he will, I imagine it goes like this. He will say to the government, can you insist that we send Prince Charles on a fact-finding mission to wherever? And by that method, we, poor dopes who pay taxes, have to stump up for it. Whenever they want to go somewhere, they ask to be sent somewhere. But every now and again, the Queen is wheeled out to make small talk with some vile individual that runs another country. You know, like the people from Saudi Arabia, for instance.
I know. And the other thing is, Nick, before you go, I don't have any technology except for my radio.
Yeah.
So if you could actually do the alien thing, not on the iPod, I'd be grateful because I'll always be wondering what it was.
Oh, haven't you got a computer?
No, I haven't got anything.
Oh,
like
Kate.
That, just a radio.
You should get yourself a computer. There's no end of stuff on it.
I used to have one, but I don't anymore.
You gave it up?
Yeah,
Wow.
Gave up technology, yeah.
Why did you do that?
I just had enough of it all. I haven't got a television or anything. No Wi-Fi, no nothing. So all I have is radio and you at the moment. So if you could do that, I'd be really pleased.
Well, how can I refuse now?
Thank you, Nick.
All right. But did you not miss anything about the computer?
I did, but then I don't now.
Right.
Same, I thought I'd missed the telly, but I don't at all.
Well, I can understand not missing the TV, because when you go on holiday, you don't see television at all. And speaking as somebody who watches an enormous amount of it, almost to the point that I'm addicted, you go cold turkey and you don't miss television at all when you go on holiday. I mean, I have to think back a long time since I went on holiday, but that was my experience. But the computer, I mean, how do you contact people?
I use my mobile.
Right.
And if I need to write
now,
a letter,
wait a minute, Kate. You've got a mobile.
Okay, I've got a mobile.
Aha.
To you. But it's an old Nokia. It doesn't do anything fancy.
Oh. It's a phone that's just a phone.
It's a phone that's just a phone.
Wow. And you tried telling the kids these days that such a thing exists and they won't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but at least I can't bump into people down the road, can I?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you won't get run over because you've been gawping at your phone.
Exactly.
Right. Oh, all right then. I'll do it after the news. How's that?
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Kate.
Bye.
Bye. 0345 6060 973. This one says most stoners don't wear hard work tying up their laces. They wear sandals or flip-flops. It says, why are XR? Why are they called XR when extinction begins with an E? Yeah, well, everything starts with an E. Get Mr. C on the phone and he'll sing it to us.
Is he crazy or is that just the way he acts?
Well, you be the judge when I give you this next story. 2 stories about aliens, and I will give them to you with increasing levels of alarm. Story 1. In America, there has been a recent uptick in sightings of unidentified flying objects, or as the US military calls them, unexplained aerial phenomena. And it has prompted the US Navy to draft formal procedures for pilots to document the encounters. These intrusions, this is the Washington Post. These intrusions are otherwise known as fake news. The intrusions have been happening on a regular basis since 2014. Recently, unidentified aircraft have entered military-designated airspace multiple times per month. A former senior intelligence officer, Luis Elizondo, told the Washington Post that the Navy guidelines formalized the reporting process, facilitating data-driven analysis while removing the stigma from talking about UFOs, calling it the single greatest decision the Navy has made in decades. Chris Mellon, a former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence and a staffer on the Senate Intelligence Committee, said, "I don't believe in safety through ignorance," he said, scolding the intelligence community for a lack of curiosity and courage and a failure to react to a strong pattern of sightings. These aren't just some local yokels. This is the intelligence bodies of the American government and the Navy. In some cases, pilots, many of whom are engineers and academy graduates, claimed to observe small spherical objects flying in formation. Others say they've seen white, tic-tac-shaped vehicles. And aside from drones, all engines rely on burning fuel to generate power. But these vehicles all had no air intake, no wind, and no exhaust. It's very mysterious, and they still seem to exceed our aircraft in speed, said a pilot, calling it truly radical technology. Awestruck and baffled pilots, concerned that reporting unidentified flying aircraft would adversely affect their careers, tended not to speak up, and when they did, there was little interest in investigating their claims. In 2017, the Pentagon first confirmed the existence of the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, a government operation launched in 2007 to collect and analyze anomalous aerospace threats, which range from advanced aircraft fielded by traditional U.S. adversaries to commercial drones to possible alien encounters. Luis Elizondo, a former senior intelligence officer, said that the Navy had enough credible evidence, including eyewitness accounts and corroborating radar information, to know that this is occurring. He said, "If I came to you and said that there are these things that can fly over our country with impunity, defying the laws of physics, and within moments could deploy a nuclear device at will, that would be a matter of national security," he said. with a number of US military personnel in the Air Force and the Navy who described the same observations. The noise level could not be ignored. This type of activity is very alarming, Elizondo said, and people are recognizing there are things in our airspace that lie beyond our understanding. So there's that. And now there's this. Prepare yourself. Aliens are interbreeding with humans to create a hybrid species that will save the planet from annihilation by climate change, an Oxford professor has claimed. Young-hae Chi, an instructor in Korean at Oxford's Oriental Institute, said the human-alien hybrids may already be walking among us. Have they got orange skin?
Oh, shut up!
Young-hae Chi believes in a correlation between alien abductions and climate change. He said it was not only scientists and theologians, but also non-human species who appear to be greatly concerned about the survivability of the human species. I don't know. I think aliens probably can't wait till we're gone so they can get hold of all our stuff. Reversing climate change now would not only save the world, but would also prove to aliens that their low estimation of humans' moral capacity was wrong, he said. Well, there's nothing wrong with our moral capacity. I mean, our leader always does things proper.
Everything that I've done is 100% proper. That's what I do, is I do things proper.
His new book, which is written in Korean, is called Alien Visitations and the End of Humanity, and he describes 4 types of aliens: small, tall and blonde, insect-like, and scaly with snake eyes. And I know which one Donnie is.
You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in.
Dr. Chi suggested that the alien-human hybrids were of high intelligence and so could be problem solvers of the future. Okay, well, that lets you off the hook, Donnie. Intelligent?
Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
Yeah, not really. So I suppose he has to be human after all. Oh, well. So, there you are, my keen caller. Kenny Everett. And that's it. If you